Chapter 131. Milan shot a bunch of astral energy towards the manticorn rushing towards the castle center. Slam! The huge ray that was trying to destroy the castle gate was split into 4 pieces, falling onto the orcs. Defend! Defend! The soldiers swung their swords and thrust spears on the castle walls while repeating his order, and the archers pulled their strings after wrapping their wounded fingers with leather. As if the time had turned back to daybreak, their high morale seemed to reach the sky and their ardor seemed to melt the frozen ground. However, the one that raised the morale so much wasn't Commander Milan. It was the Scouts Guard, Raon. It was thanks to the fool that didn't hesitate to jump down to save the soldiers that even the commander had given up as lost. His prowess in stopping the tidal wave of monsters on his own and his unfaltering courage heated up everyone's hearts with passion. I'll defend this spot. Save that man at all costs. The Wolf Mercenary Corps captain, Beto, screamed while pointing at Raon. I was going to do that even if the captain didn't say anything. I can't let a true warrior like him die here. He has a pretty face, but his personality is wild. I like him. The Wolf Mercenary Corps were weirdos that worshipped power and enjoyed battles. That was why Raon, who jumped down into the sea of monsters in order to save the wounded, was a complete nut just like them. The decently favorable impression they had of him before was soaring into the sky. Shoot your crossbows. If your fingers are injured, use your teeth to pull. Raiden shouted with a watery voice. His subordinates from the 3rd Scouting Party were among the soldiers that fell under the castle wall. He wanted to jump down himself in order to save them, but it was obvious he would only end up hindering Raon. That was why he needed to do his best from where he was. Assist Raon. Aim for the ones coming from the back line. Yes. I know. The scouts became one in mind and pulled the crossbows that were screaming from the strain. Ha! Edquill, who temporarily returned to the Snowstrikers' leader's position for the emergency, breathed heavily and turned his head. He could see the blonde boy facing the endless wave of blue and green monsters on his own. That guy. He had realized that Raon was the son of some great family because of his prowess and systematic martial arts. He thought his innocent view of the world came from the fact that he was raised as a sheltered child of the family. He thought he pretended to care for the scouts for self-satisfaction, since he was going to leave anyway. However, Raon was the real deal. He personally went down to hell in order to save the soldiers that were certainly going to die. Unlike himself, who hesitated despite having his direct subordinates among the ones that fell, Raon didn't show any hesitation at all. A shiver ran down his spine. He was ashamed of himself for believing that his actions were just the result of a rich boy's outing. This shame is unbearable. Edquill resolved that he would apologize to him after the battle and swung his sword towards the monsters that kept climbing. Bomb! Slam! A flash of light burst from Milan's sword like sunlight. He used the energy he'd been saving up to defend the castle walls on the left side, at the top of the center. Even though the consumption was huge, he didn't mind it since helping Raon was of the highest priority. We've saved everyone that fell outside the castle walls. Some of them are severely wounded, but they are all alive. The Night Fox Night Order's leader Kellen ran up to him and shouted. His face was completely red in excitement. Raon is the only one left now. We will defend the front. Take him, in the meantime. We won't save him. Milan shook his head, looking at Raon's back. Sorry? What does that mean? Commander! Every soldier and officer looked at Milan upon hearing that he wouldn't save Raon. He stood alone against the army of monsters in order to save the soldiers. We can't abandon him. Commander, I don't think that's a good decision. Father! What are you saying right now? Raiden grit his teeth, Beto furrowed his brows, and Tyrion came up from leading the soldiers underneath. It looked like they were all about to jump at him. Calm down, look at him closely. Milan raised his finger to point at Raon's back. Even though he'd finished rescuing the wounded, he kept swinging his sword without withdrawing. Instead of getting exhausted, it looked like he was being invigorated as his strikes became sharper and his movements became smoother. Is that? Did he just enter a trance right there? Wait, how is that even possible? They swallowed, watching Raon swinging his sword like a possessed man. They couldn't understand how he went into a trance in that hellish situation. He has the chance of his lifetime right now. Make sure to not bother him, focus on clearing the surrounding area. You understood. Let's go. Move. Knights, swordsmen, and the soldiers returned to their positions. They defended their spot, praying for the young hero to get even stronger and grasp the opportunity he had received. As such, 2 days passed, and once the third sun rose, the ceaseless wave of monsters finally came to an end. The corpses were piled up into a hill at the base of the castle walls. Whoa! We won! The wave is over. The soldiers on the castle walls raised their weapons and burst into a roar that they'd been holding back. In response to that explosive roar, Raon's sword finally stopped. As he tried to raise his head, he finally lost consciousness and collapsed. Oh no! Raon! Catch him! People all ran down from the castle walls towards the collapsing Raon. They must have been exhausted, but they were running like the wind, as if their strength had returned. Raon! And Commander Milland was one of them. He ran faster than anyone else and caught Raon. How is he? Did he get seriously injured? Commander! Everyone's gaze was fixated on Milland's mouth, swordsmen, knights, and soldiers alike. He is just exhausted. There's not a single shred of stamina or aura left in him. It's my first time seeing someone fight to this extent. Milland laughed bitterly and clasped Raon's shoulder. Ha! It's a relief. Seriously. People breathed out a sigh of relief and looked at Raon. Astonishment and admiration could be seen in their relieved eyes. Raon is safe. Resumed the shouts of victory. Wah! The monsters have run away. Haben Castle has won. Realizing that Raon was safe, the soldiers and knights started to shout once again. Their hoarse voices were exhausted, but their joy and delight were more intense than ever. Raon! 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 Whoa! The snow strikers that used to hate Raon were also shouting their throats off. Starting with their leader Edquil, every member of the snow strikers burst into a roar. Oh, wow! Milland snickered, looking at the castle walls under the dazzling light. Everyone was shouting Raon's name in unison. For someone that had only been there for a short time to have so much influence. He thought it never happened before, nor would it happen again. I'm looking forward to seeing how much stronger you'll be once you wake up, and how everyone will treat you. He used aura to relax Raon's exhausted body. We won. The wave ended in 3 days. Whoa! Knights, swordsmen, and soldiers smiled and cried together as they rejoiced in their victory. However, that wasn't the case for one demon king. He ground his teeth, glaring at the message Raon hadn't read yet. Glacier? The frost-covering rat's body burst into a flame pillar. Glacier? Everything else was fine. He knew his stats would increase, and he knew he would get stronger. However, Glacier was different. He'd bet him on acquiring it after 5 months, and he never imagined he could get it in 3. And it was during a trance, on top of that. You cheater! Wrath seized the collapsed Raon by his collar. Wake up! You must have cheated against the King of Essence once again. He screamed and started spreading ice everywhere. Wake up! You little weasel! It was a rare occurrence that Wrath gave up his dignified speech to start screaming. Qua! A single demon king was screaming among the humans cheering for their victory. That guy is dangerous. The blue-robed man clenched his fist until it cracked as he looked at Raon. A talent that makes him stronger as he fights. Such a talent was a rare occurrence even in the vast continent. His hair stood on end, watching as that monster grew over the past 3 days of his trance. I told you. I had a bad feeling the moment I saw him. The black-robed man's mouth twisted. He shouldn't be left alone. Let's kill him. Considering his speed of growth, and his personality that led him to risk his life for others, he wasn't going to stay in Haben Castle forever. He had a premonition that he would get in Eden's way one day. That's a matter for another time. The black-robed man slowly shook his head. There are only 2 missions we have, the magic stone of the Green King and the Siren's incarnation. As you can see, he isn't one of them. We might have to fight him one day. No, we will for sure. The 6 kings are pretty much the only ones that can raise a guy like him. But now is not the time. Since our plan hasn't been completely derailed yet, you shall keep following it, voracious ice demon. It's about time you tell me what that great plan of yours is. How long are you planning to keep it to yourself? The man called the voracious ice demon gave the black-robed man a death glare. I was about to tell you anyway. The black-robed man took out a staff from his robe and pounded the ground. At that moment, strange letters appeared and a huge ice troll emerged from the ground. Ha! The voracious ice demon's eyes widened upon seeing the troll. It was bigger than a troll warrior, but its white fur meant that it hadn't finished growing yet. It had a horn in the middle of its forehead, which doesn't exist on a normal troll. And no way. Is it a lord? Yes. An ice troll lord. I brainwashed this guy, who was born in a valley at the upper part of Stalin Mountain. I was lucky with the timing, since I would have been devoured if I was any slower. The black-robed man nodded, looking at the ice troll lord. A lord inevitably gathers monsters around it and makes them obey. Once Milan finds out about the lord's appearance, he won't be able to keep hiding anymore. He'll come out with the troops. And that's the moment. We will attack. Yes. Since the castle walls have collapsed and countless soldiers have died, I'm sure he will attempt a surprise attack before the Lord starts its all-out attack. We will use that opportunity to take the Green King's magic stone and the Siren's incarnation. I can understand why you came up with that plan. The voracious ice demon nodded, looking at the ice troll lord with the unfocused eyes. By the way, did you say that you brought him from the valley at the upper part of the mountain? Yes. Then, what's at the top of the mountain? I couldn't go there because I was too scared. What? All my senses were screaming at me, telling me to never climb there. What exists there must surpass our imagination. A drop of sweat flowed down the black-robed man's cheek. Humph, what a coward. I'll personally climb there to confirm once we are done with this mission. I don't care whether you decide to die or not after the plan, but follow the plan for now. You don't need to tell me that. Voracious ice demon snorted and shrugged his shoulders. But it's a shame, I wanted to kill that guy earlier. The plan takes priority, but... The black-robed man narrowed his eyes, looking at the castle wall. Raon managed to defend until the end. It wouldn't be a bad idea to kill him if we get an opportunity. Raon opened his eyes. An old and familiar ceiling. He was in the scouts' quarters. How long have I been sleeping? He remembered swinging his sword while maintaining his senses to the extreme, but what happened afterwards was blank. The last thing he remembered was the golden sunlight. 3 days. The answer came from Wrath inside the flower bracelet. His voice was as cold as the northern wind. Was I asleep for that long? Wrath creeped up and shoved his blue face against him without saying anything. He was glaring at him with his eyes boiling in anger. You. I saw that you tricked the King of Essence once again. Ha? What? Raon leaned his body back. He couldn't tell what he was talking about, as he had tricked him too many times. You tempted the King of Essence with pineapple and took the information about Glacier. You shameless and dirty human. Ah. Raon understood why he was so angry. You used food to shift the bet in your favor. Do you have any conscience? A demon king talking about conscience was quite fresh and new. I told you before that there's a saying you don't bother a Cerberus when they are eating. Someone as evil as you doesn't even exist in Deviled. Ah, wait a moment. Raon raised his hand before he finished talking. The bet is still not over. Why are you angry already? It's over. What? The bet is already over, with your victory. Wrath's frost exploded like a bomb. The icy anger engulfed the entire room. It's over? Raon's jaw dropped. He softly shook off Wrath's frost and checked his messages. You've displayed an overwhelming might. All stats have increased by 3. 3 points? The stats inevitably increased slower the higher they were. The fact that he got 3 points in all stats was an unexpected level of reward. You've maintained an extreme focus. Trait has been created. A new trait on top of that? Focus, 1 star. It takes less time to enter a focused state, and the focused state can be maintained for a longer duration. Wow! It didn't look like much, but it was an amazing trait that would be helpful for both battles and training. He could probably enter that extremely focused state he'd gotten to during the castle defense once it grew enough. Coup! Wrath trembled like a volcano nearing its eruption. Raon licked his lips and read the last message. Glacier has been acquired. Water resistance has reached 5 stars. Ha! Raon's eyes widened upon reading that last message. I acquired Glacier? When did that happen? He knew that his swordsmanship, aura, and senses had grown a lot, but he didn't even imagine he would acquire Glacier like that. And water resistance has also increased. Water resistance had reached 5 stars, probably thanks to constantly using the frost. Did you finally realize the reason the King of Essence is angry? Wrath's eyes started to condense into a sphere, like a pufferfish puffing up. You tried to win the bet by using the King of Essence's only weakness. Are you a devil or something? Being called devil by the King of Devils was also pretty refreshing. The King of Essence won't admit it. This bet was wrong from the beginning. The King of Essence will never hand over the reward, even if my life depends on it. I guess I'll try. What are you talking about? The King of Essence is never going to yield. Apple meat pie. What? What? Why are you saying that right now? Apple meat pie and a pineapple pizza. Wrath didn't respond. However, that was enough for Raon to realize he was wavering. Apple meat pie, pineapple pizza, and a pineapple cookie. He is still not yielding. There was still no answer. I guess food won't work anymore. Raon thought that it was only natural that a demon king wouldn't sell his pride over and over for food. He nodded, about to offer another deal. You've won the bet against Wrath, thought. Ahem. Wrath's body shrunk like a deflated balloon. He turned his face away in embarrassment. Apparently, he wasn't answering him in refusal, but because he was in the middle of accepting the results of the bet. Ha! He wouldn't even if his life depended on it, but the pie, pizza, and a cookie managed to convince him. It was easy. It was so easy that it was scary. However, there was something that neither Raon nor Wrath were aware of. All stats have increased by 4. You've achieved your 5th victory against Wrath. An additional reward has been created from the effect of the 5th consecutive victory. Chapter 132. See consecutive victories? Wrath's jaw dropped, so much so that it started to tear. Ah, yes. There was a bonus for consecutive wins. Raon nodded while looking at the message. It looked like there was another bonus reward for consecutive victories. Don't worry about it so much, it's just some stats. The reward for the 4 consecutive victories was an increase of 1 to 2 points in strength, agility, and energy. Since it would be a similar amount, it wasn't that big of a deal. Even then, they are stats taken from the King of Essence's main body. Think about the food instead. Wrath licked his lips since he had no choice. All stats have increased by 2 from the additional reward. Ha! All stats? Both Raon and Wrath's eyes widened when they read that all stats had increased instead of a few different stats. However, the message wasn't over yet. 2 traits performances have increased from the additional reward. Apparently, he was getting 2 traits rank increases instead of 1. He could guess that the reward for the consecutive victories increased drastically every 5 wins. I like it. Raon smiled faintly, looking at the fading message. Since it took a long time to increase a trait's performance despite having the system, increasing the ranks of 2 traits was a great reward. It surpassed his expectations by far. Why is the trait? Wrath's head was trembling in confusion. Increasing all stats is outrageous on its own, so why is it increasing the trait ranks? You said it before. Raon waved his hand to suppress Wrath's frost, which was bursting out like a flame. The perfect system does its best to make its owner stronger. This must be for the same reason. He repeated the sentence Wrath boasted with before. But this can't be happening. If I knew there was such an additional reward, I wouldn't have admitted my defeat so easily. Well, that's your problem for forgetting about it. After all, we already knew that there was a reward for consecutive victories. Ugh. Wrath ground his teeth, unable to say anything. Raon's mouth was curved with anticipation as waited for the next message. Backstab's rank has increased. Glacier's rank has increased. Ha! Raon swallowed. Backstab was fine, but he never imagined that Glacier's rank would increase despite having just acquired it. He immediately closed his eyes and opened the ocean of perception. It's crazy. The ocean of perception's range was much bigger than the last time he'd done that, and the wave's purity had increased. He could now feel what people were doing outside the scouts' quarters, not just inside. Tremble. A huge wave soared right in front of him. It was obvious who was doing that. KRR. He opened his eyes and saw a tremendous amount of frost and anger coming from Wrath. Whoosh! The coldness erupted like a volcano, its waves coiling around Raon's entire body like a snake. I'll definitely finish you off today. You'd better give up. You will only end up donating more stats. It was Raon's sincere advice. Even though his body hadn't completely recovered, his energy center was almost empty, his head was hazy, and his bones were hurting, there was still no way he would lose to the Wrath the way they currently stood. Shut up. I can easily swallow you right now, as empty as you are. Wrath snapped, then struck him with the tidal wave of ice and wrath. The terrible cold poured down on Raon's head to press upon his body and mind. Raon frowned. Even though his water resistance had increased, he still felt like his skin was getting torn apart. Wrath was certainly getting stronger over time. However, he was getting stronger at a faster rate, and he even had an invincible shield now. There was no way he would lose. HAAA. Raon caught his breath and used Glacier, which had reached 2 stars. He made walls of ice with his mental image to block his mana circuit and defend against Wrath's ice. Sizz. The flesh-grinding pain quickly subsided as he blocked the ice with ice. The mental stress also decreased because the physical pain wasn't there anymore. It was at a level that he could endure for an entire day, no, his entire life. Freeze. You cheating weasel. Wrath should have been aware of that fact, but he was taken over by his anger and kept pouring ice over him. Is it not over yet? Since Raon felt slightly guilty, he suppressed his yawn and pretended to endure. He was planning to persuade him after putting up with it for a bit, but it didn't even take a few minutes before the message appeared. Ah, my stats have increased. Ugh. Is it true? Wrath shrunk down and anxiously trembled, his stats taken away once again. Yes, I keep my promise. Raon nodded. Since he benefited a lot from Wrath, fulfilling the promise of eating food wasn't an issue. I'm getting hungry, too. Since he didn't eat anything for 3 days, he was really hungry even if Wrath didn't say anything. He put on his outerwear and left the room. Ha! Young master. Dorian's eyes grew wide on his way back from bringing water and a wet towel. When did you wake up? Just now. How is your body? You've been asleep for 3 whole days. My head feels a bit hazy, but I'm fine. He nodded and twirled his arm. That's a relief. I went to the commander and the medics, but they only said that you were fine and that I should never disturb you. Dorian wiped his tears with his sleeve and murmured that he could finally sleep comfortably. It looked like he'd been worried the entire time Raon was unconscious. Since he was a bit embarrassed to express his gratitude, he simply patted his shoulder. But where are you going right after waking up? I need to eat something. I'm starving right now. Let's go together. I need to eat as well. He put down the water and walked next to him. Ah, And don't be surprised once we are outside. About what? You will find out soon enough, Hohu. What are you talking about? Just ignore that guy. Move faster and keep your promise with the King of Essence. Raon tilted his head because he couldn't understand what he meant, and Wrath stuck to him like a leech and waved his arm. I got it, so stop whining. Raon sighed a little and left the scouts' quarters. The defense hasn't been so easy for a long time. I love the part where we can sleep longer. I wish every day was like this. Now we just need him to wake up. The castle was busier than usual. It looked like the fever still remained after riding out the wave. So, huh? He's. As they were walking towards the branch of frost while listening to the soldiers' laughter, the noisy street fell silent as if they were grasped by a hand. People were all looking at Raon with their mouths tightly shut. Sir Raon. Raon. Did you finally wake up? He finally woke up. The hero of the wave. Whoa! Everyone ran up to Raon and started shouting, soldiers, knights, and swordsmen alike. Their eyes and mouth were moving at the same time into true smiles. They were all rejoicing his awakening from the bottom of their hearts. Why are they acting like this? Raon furrowed his brows. He'd only saved the soldiers by buying some time. He was confused because he couldn't understand why they were so happy about it despite being simple acquaintances. Raon is still a patient. Step back, everyone! A familiar voice could be heard between the ear-splitting cheers. It was Tarion. He pulled Raon's arm and made the soldiers back off. Ah! You understood. Sir Raon. Please recover quickly and drink with me. Thank you for saving my companions. I'll repay this gratitude one day. The soldiers spoke while backing off. They were all worried about him, expressing their gratitude and wishing him a quick recovery. You are still the same. Tarion smiled broadly, looking at Raon's furrowed brows. Pardon? Are you unable to understand why the soldiers, knights, and swordsmen that you aren't intimate with are worried about you and are cheering for you? Raon nodded, as he thought it wasn't a big deal that he blocked the path to save the soldiers. There were a lot of scouts among those who fell down, but they were mostly unrelated to you. And there were also snowstrikers that looked down on you among them. He continued, looking at the soldiers that were shouting Raon's name. And yet, you still didn't disregard any of them. You wielded your sword for them and created a wall. You are the hero that risked your life to block the path for the soldiers that even the commander gave up on. If they aren't attached to a man like that, they don't deserve to stay in Haben Castle. Tarion's eyes were sparkling with a blue light. It looked like he was one of the warriors of Haben Castle that were attached to the hero. This is the vice commander's expression of gratitude. He slowly bowed his head. Raon, thank you for saving our soldiers. I'll repay this favor in the future whenever you desire. Raon met Tarion's eyes as he raised his head. His determined smile came from his heart. Me, too. I'll also help you. Please call me whenever. Raon. I'll help you too. I'll come whether I can help or not. I'll come too if I can help you. The soldiers, knights, and scouts raised their hands, telling him to call them whenever. Even the Snowstriker swordsman did the same. Ha! Raon breathed out in excitement. His heart was feeling scorching hot. It was the scene he had wanted to witness when he first came to the castle. The scene of everyone being united during or after a fight. His heart was pounding fiercely as he stood in the middle of that scene. He felt a new emotion, the driving force to keep on living in the world. He smiled faintly, looking at the soldiers and the knights shouting out his name. When are you going to keep moving? Because Wrath was urging him, Raon entered the branch of frost and left the people's cheers behind him. Inside the pub was also an uproar, with people telling him that they would buy his meal, or they would offer him a drink, or the food would be free for the rest of his life. Is this what you were talking about earlier? Yes, although this is worse than I expected. Dorian sighed, using his hand to fan himself. Dear swordsman. Are you okay now? Yua ran out from the kitchen, fluttering her twin tails. Yes. That's a relief. I went to visit you. You came to visit me? Yes, I brought some soup, but you couldn't eat it. I ate that one. Dorian smiled and raised his hand. Thank you anyway. No problem, it's important to look out for the regular customers. Yua smiled brightly and put down the menu. Whether she was serious or not, the way she said it was pretty cute. What are you ordering today? The apple meat pie I couldn't eat last time. Wrath inhaled deeply the moment he said apple meat pie. His inhale was full of anticipation. Ah, I'm sorry. Yua furrowed her brows. The apple meat pie is currently sold out because we are out of apples. You don't have them? No, because there were a lot of customers after the wave ended. Huh? What? Rat's eyes lost focus. It looked like he was about to explode again, with his lips trembling intensely. What about the pineapple pizza? That's not up to me, but... Yua looked at Dorian instead. Ask him already. The first subordinate of the King of Essence must have a pineapple and an apple. Unfortunately, I don't have either of them. Dorian shrugged his shoulders. We gave away the pineapple cookies to celebrate the end of the wave, so I ran out of them. What about the apples? I gave them to the scouts and Sir Raon a long time ago as snacks. Raon remembered the yellow apple he gave him before. He used to tell him that the morning apple was good for health each time. It doesn't make any sense if apples and pineapples infinitely come out from a pocket. Dorian scratched his belly pocket and laughed. It was ridiculous that he was talking about his pocket as if it made any sense at all. Then, how about boulders and logs? Those are useful objects. They are must-haves. Ha! Raon went speechless. There was a huge problem with Dorian's common sense. What a mysterious. What a useless guy. Wrath grit his teeth, glaring at Dorian. Although he called him his first subordinate, he was abandoned in an instant. Apple meat pie, pineapple pizza, and pineapple cookie. Are you telling me there's none of those three? This can't be happening. This can't be reality. Wrath's scream was filled with despair. What are you going to do about this? It can't be helped. What can I do when we don't have the ingredients? That's none of the King of Essence's business. Keep your promise. Calm down for a moment. Raon pushed Wrath back, as he kept screaming in his ear, and looked at Yua. Then, what's available right now? The Knight set menu, Swordsman set menu and Scout set menu. The basic barbecue is also available. Then I'll order a Scout set menu. Bread, stew, roasted meat, and scrambled egg. It's so average that it's boring. A set menu is what the King of Essence hates the most. Wrath screamed and puffed up like a pointy puffer fish. Raon wouldn't normally care about what he did, but Raon felt bad about him because he looked like a baby puffer fish who had his stats and traits taken away that day. It can't be helped. Raon realized it was time to use his secret weapon. Then, how about this? Shut up. The King of Essence's gourmet taste can't be satisfied easily. I still have the beet ice cream Runan gave me. Ha! Wrath's pointy spikes of coldness rounded and returned to his body. You know, Runan gave me the ice creams when we left. I still have them. Beet ice cream. Wrath's madness-filled eyes regained focus. If I remember correctly, there's also mint chocolate. Mint chocolate. As soon as he said mint chocolate, coldness soared from Wrath's mouth like a bamboo. The speed of his reaction could be called a reflex at that point. Ahem. Wrath covered his mouth to keep from drooling, awkwardly clearing his throat. Air. You will eat at least 2, right? He raised 2 fingers with a refreshed voice containing no trace of anger. What is a gourmet? Raon started pondering about it. Milland and the officers were reviewing the situation after the wave inside the commander's room. Since Raon woke up, how about we hold a festival for a day? I agree. Since they've never had a good rest, it would be nice to give them a break for a day. We will be able to raise the morale to the max by rewarding Raon on that day. After all, he is without a doubt Haben Castle's hero right now. The officers kept talking about Raon with soft voices that were filled with favor. Festival, huh? I guess one day would be okay. Milan nodded. The monsters don't attack for a while once the wave ended. Since Raon woke up, holding a festival for a day seemed to be a good idea. Then, Charles takes care of the festival. About the award for Raon. As he was about to discuss the next issue, the door burst open. It was the second scouting party's leader Kizan, who returned from his scouting mission. Say, Commander. Kizan was grabbing onto the door with a trembling chin. It was the first time they saw him acting like that, as he was the bravest person among the scouts. What did you even see? El Lord. An ice troll lord has appeared. That frightening sentence made the cheerful atmosphere fall into a heavy silence. Chapter 133. Rimmer looked completely dissatisfied as he entered the audience chamber of the Lord's Manor, nose wrinkled. Like always, Glenn didn't even take a glance at Rimmer, his eyes closed as he supported his chin with his hand. My lord, how could you do that? What nonsense did you come to spout now? If Raon achieved something so great, you should have told me immediately. Why are you keeping it to yourself like a treasure? Ha! Ren. Glenn sighed lightly and turned his gaze towards Ren, who was standing on his right side. It wasn't me. Ren quickly shook his hand, telling him he wasn't involved this time. Then how did he learn about it? Unless he straight up overheard the shadow agents. Oh, correct. I hid in their ceiling to read the report about Raon. Rimmer smiled cheerfully while spinning his finger. In addition, he murmured that the shadow agents had a lot of openings. I'd better send the heavenly blade to the shadow agents tomorrow, since a red worm is crawling in their ceiling. Worm? What kind of worm lives in this weather? I'm talking about you. No way, I'm a butterfly. Look at me, I'm flying. There's no way I'm a worm. Ha! Whatever. Arguing with you is only giving me a headache. Glenn clicked his tongue and closed his eyes. Let's think about Raon instead of me for now. Doesn't he seriously surpass our imaginations? Rimmer was super excited, a bright smile on his face. He stood in front of thousands of monsters in order to save people that fell from the castle walls. He is the craziest of the crazy guys in the world. Glenn licked his lips slightly, his eyes closed. But he isn't just crazy. He held out for 3 days and nights to save everyone and lead the wave to victory. Wow! I wonder whose student he is. I really want to meet his teacher. Rimmer blabbered that he must be handsome and kind-hearted. I don't know how you will take it, but the way Raon achieves the impossible reminds me of the head of house in his youth. No, he is actually even better than the head of house. Better? Not really. Even though he replied bluntly, he opened his eyes with his mouth slightly curved into a smile. He seemed satisfied by the compliment that his grandson was better than himself. Instead of bothering with stuff like politics, the warriors in Haben Castle love battles. They are full of solidarity. Rimmer grinned, locking his fingers together to cover his head. Since Raon is currently called the hero of Haben Castle, they might take his side in the future. Did you actually allow Raon's exam because you knew this would happen? Of course not. Not. Glenn shook his head. A slight amount of fervor appeared in his empty eyes. I just figured he would do well wherever he went. I didn't even think about who would take his side or whatever. Ha! Did you just acknowledge Raon's abilities? The sun is going to rise from the west tomorrow. Rimmer made a fuss, covering his mouth with his hand. Silence. I picked Haben Castle for him to gain lots of experience there, but I was honestly surprised when I heard he jumped down for the soldiers. Rimmer's eyes became serious. The mischievous atmosphere was replaced by a solemn light. I felt emotional because it sounded like Raon's humanity has grown, rather than his might. He used to be so cold and cynical. Glenn didn't say anything, but slowly nodded in agreement. I've never raised my own child, but I was overwhelmed with pride. It felt like my own child had grown up nicely. There's not many children that keep advancing without even causing problems. And he twisted his mouth and looked down on Rimmer. He is walking a different path than me, but he is my grandson, not yours. Ha! You just admitted it. Sir Ren, did you hear him just now? He just called him his grandson. That's. I heard it. It was a rare occasion that Ren shouted loudly, but he did as he nodded. I wonder if the North Grave Mountain is going to collapse tomorrow. Or maybe the sky will. Silence. Glenn yelled, and Rimmer smirked at him. The audience chamber was full of affection once again upon receiving Raon's news. Contrary to the kind of friendly audience chamber, Haben Castle's atmosphere was completely serious. The 1st Scouting Party and the 4th Scouting Party have confirmed it again. The 1st Scouting Party's leader Barty bit his lip, reading the document he wrote in a hurry. A size similar to an ogre, the king's crest on its chest, and a single horn on its forehead. All are the characteristics of an ice troll lord. It's certain that a lord has appeared. Ugh! Damn it! Why did a troll lord? It has only been a few days since the wave ended. Inside the conference room, the officers either sighed or closed their eyes upon hearing about the ice troll lord's appearance. Wait, it could be a mutant or an ogre. We've witnessed it using the ability to make the other monsters submit, which is a characteristic of a king. That's right. Not only the trolls, but also the orcs, gnolls, and even the ocean monsters yielded to it. The 1st Scouting Party's leader and the 4th Scouting Party's leader spoke one after the other. Damn it! Then it's the real one. The officer trembled their clenched fist, having lost their last hope. If we let it happen, the monsters gathering under the Lord will cause a second wave. No, a tidal wave even worse than a wave will storm upon us. The conference room fell speechless. Gulping sounds were the only things that could be heard. But we have one single piece of good news. Good news? What can good news do in this situation? It will be beneficial to us. Barty nodded and held up the second document. The ice troll lord's fur didn't have the characteristic blue color of the ice trolls. Instead, they were white. That means it isn't an adult yet. It is incomplete. Then. We need to finish it off before it becomes complete. Millen stamped his finger on the spot where the Lord was found on the map. The intense pressure crushed the desk. We will attack tomorrow. Tomorrow? It's too early. Preparing the soldiers will. The officers were against it, saying that it took more time to move the soldiers because of all the wounded people. The soldiers won't join. Millen stood up. Even though he wasn't that tall, his pressure made him seem like a giant. Knights, swordsmen, and the 1st and 2nd Scouting Parties will go. We will attack with the elites to quickly end the Lord's life. I concur. Speed is the most important right now. We need to kill the Lord before more monsters gather. Tyrion's eyes shone from where he stood on the right side. That seems to be the only way to reduce casualties. Indeed. Since the commander is fully capable of killing the Lord, the others just need to buy time by fighting the other monsters. Officers nodded in agreement, figuring that was the best plan of action. Prepare to attack immediately. Since the Snowstrikers have many wounded, they shall stay here with the other scouting parties and the soldiers to prepare for an unexpected situation. Affirmative. Understood. May I have a word? When the officers stood up to leave the conference room, Raon, who'd remained silent so far, raised his hand. I'd like to join. Raon opened his mouth, looking into Millen's serious eyes. You haven't recovered from your injuries yet. Your mind and body aren't in a condition to fight. But I'm still going to be helpful. Yes, your prowess is going to be helpful for sure. But I can't strain you anymore. Commander. Everyone understood your feelings that day, we could feel it more than enough. You shall rest this time. Millen slowly shook his head. Yes, leave the Lord to us. We will kill it for sure, then return. Just wait here. I'll fight to the best of my abilities in Sir Raon's place. As Raon expressed his willingness to fight, the officer's eyes were filled with fervor. That's not the only reason we are leaving you behind. Please take care of the castle while I'm gone. Please defend it if anything happens. Milan smiled lightly and patted his shoulder. Please. Understood. Raon had no choice but to agree, and left the conference room. Damn it, I missed a great prey. It was a shame, since killing the Lord was surely going to increase his soul level and stats. What an idiot. You won't get a chance, anyway. It's obvious that the old man will take care of it. That's true. Just as Wrath said, it was a given that Commander Milland would fight the Lord. It might actually be better to recover his body instead of standing by after joining the fight. Are you a pig or something? I don't understand how you are so greedy. It's not as bad as your gluttony. What are you talking about? The King of Essence has no such thing as gluttony. I just love the delicacies. Oh, sure. Mr. Demon King, whose saliva glands start malfunctioning as soon as he hears the words mint chocolate. Ugh. Raon returned to the scouts' quarters while making fun of Wrath. The next day at daybreak, the attack force led by Milland ran out the castle, aiming for the Lord's head at the end of the snowfield. Since they consisted of the uninjured elites, their speed was way faster than a normal expedition team. Raon watched them create a white storm in their path, before coming down from the castle walls. Ah, it's really a shame. I should have been the one killing the Lord. Dorian shook his hand in the air, spouting some nonsense. It was funny that he was saying that despite having shouted his joy as soon as he heard he wasn't part of the attack force. Your first subordinate is really amazing. The King of Essence doesn't know him. Whenever Dorian acted like that, Wrath pretended he didn't know him. What's your plan today? I'm going to cultivate, since I need to recover as soon as possible. May I help you? I'm fine, so mind your own business. Yes. As if he was waiting for permission, Dorian saluted and hurriedly ran to the other side of the scouts' quarters. It looked like he was planning to play with Yua in the branch of frost. It looks like they got pretty close. He has the same mental age as the pineapple girl. No. Honestly, he is more childish. Wrath clicked his tongue at his pathetic behavior. That's true. And you too. Raon didn't say that out loud, since Wrath would definitely have a seizure if he heard that. The mention of mental age reminds me. Back in Devil Dom, the King of Essence was famous for his aloof mind. Even when the other demon kings were corrupted, the King of Essence has always been elegant. I should hurry and start cultivating already. Listen. It will be a life lesson. I've heard you boast so much that my ears are bleeding. Ugh. I keep telling you, but you will definitely die a painful death. Raon ignored the self-proclaimed elegant Demon King's curse and returned to the scouts' quarters to sit down. Ha! He caught his breath and closed his eyes. Accepting the pure energy of nature, he rotated the ring of fire. Once the rotating ring enhanced his body, he used the 10,000 flames cultivation. The heat that was similar to magma burst from his energy center to dash through his mana circuit, starting to melt the remnant of the battle. Probably because of the trait focus, or his enhanced stats, the flow of his aura dashing through his mana circuit could be felt in detail, as if it were in the palm of his hand. A little bit more should be possible. Raon absorbed more mana than usual. The increased amount made his shoulders shiver slightly, but he controlled the flow using his elevated martial arts and senses. The change of mana raised his focus. He rotated the ring of fire and used the 10,000 flames cultivation as naturally as breathing. The sunlight outside the window subsided, and once the moon reached the center of the sky, Raon finally opened his eyes. His burning red eyes gave off the impression that the sun had risen once again. Unlike the dawn, his eyes were filled with power. My aura should be fully recovered by tomorrow. Raon smiled, caressing his energy center. The recovery speed didn't disappoint him, thanks to his increased stats and his proficiency in martial arts. It looked like he could return to his perfect state earlier than he thought. It's all thanks to the King of Essence's great abilities. Make sure to repay the favor. Okay. Raon snickered, looking at Wrath acting dignified by extending his chin. Let's try using Glacier, too. Since he had recovered decently, he decided to keep practicing with Glacier. He closed his eyes once again and opened the ocean of perception, which was now wider than a lake. Raon dove deeper into the ocean of perception, and even used the perception of the snowflower to extend his range. It was easier and faster to expend his perception now, probably thanks to the trait focus. Whir! He shaped the flow of perception that was spreading in circles into tentacles to look around the castle. He was training to use Glacier through image. In the midst of checking the 4 directions by using the flow of perception, Raon suddenly stopped. Multiple waves had appeared in his ocean of perception. It was the presence of monsters running towards him fiercely. That's not all. 3 huge tidal waves were soaring in between the monsters. They were incomparably more powerful existences than the other normal monsters. Thud! As Raon was trying to confirm the presence once again, the door flew open and Dorian entered. Wow, you're still doing this. Dorian whispered while carefully closing the door. When he walked towards his bed on a tiptoe, Raon's eyes suddenly opened. Ah! Uninvited guests are here. You uninvited guest? That's too mean. I returned late on purpose. I'm not talking about you. What? No, I should call them prey, rather than uninvited guests. Raon stood up and grabbed his sword. Why, young master? Why are you taking your sword at this hour? Deliver this message. A blue flame sparkled in Raon's eyes. Enemies are coming. When the moon reached the center of the sky, the black-robed man stood up. Voracious Ice Demon, the time has come. The voracious Ice Demon opened his eyes. The thin vertical pupils of a beast were trembling in his eyes. We are finally shedding blood. With a frightening voice that was enough to cause goosebumps, he raised his body. Is Milland gone for sure? I've confirmed with the eyes of the troll that I use for scouting. They are moving faster than I expected, and they will reach around Stalin Mountain in about 6 hours. Unfortunately, it is going according to your plan. I wanted to try fighting Milland. The voracious ice demon darted his tongue in and out, saying that it was a bummer. Stop that useless thought and get ready. We are going to attack immediately. But no matter how hard I think about it, the Lord is such a waste. It would have been really useful if we raised it properly. Lord? Yes, it's too good to be used as bait. You are misunderstanding something. The black-robed man shook his head. The Lord is here. He took out a staff from his robe and slammed the ground. A strange pattern flashed and the ice troll lord appeared, even bigger than before. KRR. The Lord groaned in hunger with blank eyes. The king-tier monsters get stronger the more they shed blood. I can't miss this opportunity to safely raise the Lord. Then, what's in Stalin Mountain? It's a fake that I created with a spell. It might fool the others, but isn't Milland going to notice it right away? He probably will. But our job will be finished by then. The black-robed man smiled coldly. He'd shown the ice troll lord to the scouting parties 3 whole times for that purpose. Milland would realize it once he arrived, but he was definitely going to be tricked until then. Let's begin. He slammed the staff down once again. Alongside a thunderous noise, the snowy hill behind them started shivering like a living creature. Bomb! The white snow was swept away and blue fur rose up. It belonged to trolls and orcs. The white hill was a fake hill made of monsters that were holding their breath. That hill. You piled it up little by little so that Haben Castle wouldn't notice, right? Blue Shamanic Demon, your plan is boring but effective, for sure. I kept telling you that we will accomplish our mission as long as you move according to the plan. The Blue Shamanic Demon twisted the corners of his mouth up and put on the troll shaman's mask. Along with the booting sound of a machine, the mask surrounded his head. KRRR. A beast's roar came from the Blue Shamanic Demon's mouth. The glow of his eyes was even more brutal than a monster, and an ominous energy was creeping out from the staff he was holding. Hell yeah! I'm looking forward to Milland's expression when he finds Haben Castle full of corpses. The voracious ice demon grinned and wore the shark helmet on his head. Kring! The blue wave flowing down from the helmet surrounded his body. A blade-like fin came out from his back and shoulders, blue spikes emerging from his limbs. It was armor that was filled with spikes that were sharp enough to tear skin on contact, the shark sting's armor, which was the most violent among the ocean monsters. Let's go! Kra! Krrr! The blue shamanic demon raised his dark green staff, and the monsters that were deadly quiet before started screaming as they dashed towards Haben Castle. Their ferocity was multiple times more intense than the wave. Since they shouldn't be vigilant nor prepared right now, break through the destroyed castle wall at once. Slaughter the opponents with feeble resistance, just the way I like it. The green shamanic demon kept scheming until the end, and the voracious ice demon's evil eyes flared. We can see the castle. Ha! But... what? What is happening? The two monster men's eyes widened upon finding the castle walls full of soldiers, ready to fight them. There was even a flare fired up to the sky as they confirmed their presence. Is this a trap? It's not a trap. I've confirmed Milan's position, so how? Not only the voracious ice demon but also the blue shamanic demon's eyes trembled in confusion. How did they? Don't panic, green shamanic demon. Only weaklings remained in the castle anyway. We can simply bulldoze them with sheer power. Ha, you are right this time. The blue shamanic demon raised his staff and spoke out some strange words one after another. Ki. Kra. Upon receiving the light flowing out from the staff, the monsters became faster and fiercer as they dashed towards the castle walls. Go to the castle walls. Destroy them in one fell swoop. Koa, I'll be going first this time. Ha! As the monsters were about to slam their bodies into the castle walls, a man jumped down from the castle. With fluttering blonde hair, the hero that stopped thousands of monsters on his own a few days ago was standing there. It's a relief that I didn't go. Raon brandished his deadly blade and smiled in excitement. Because the prey came to me on their own. Chapter 134. Dorian immediately ran out of the scouts' quarters to climb the central tower, which was the tallest building in Haben Castle. Ha! Dorian? Why did you come here? The eyes of the guards, who were keeping watch at the highest floor of the tower, widened. We don't have time for that. Dorian shook his head and ran towards the alarming bell to strike it. Ding! 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 The bell rang 5 times in no time, and the highest level of alert was activated, which was the same level as the waves. Are you crazy? God damn it! The guards tried to pull Dorian's arm, but it was already too late. The soldiers that were resting or sleeping came running towards the central tower. What's going on? Why did you ring the alarm? What's happening? 5 times means that it's a wave. That's Dorian. Why are you over there? The soldiers' eyes widened upon finding Dorian ringing the alarming bell. Monsters! Monsters! The monsters are swarming from the west. Dorian repeated what Raon told him, as he kept ringing the bell. Monsters? What kind of nonsense is that? Why the hell would there be monsters in the west? You idiot! All the monsters in the surroundings submitted to the Lord. Did you have a nightmare or something? Come down from there already. The snow strikers and the soldiers gestured for him to come down while cursing at him. Dorian! Stop it right now! Sir Raon! While the guards were trying to stop him, Dorian opened his mouth once again. Sir Raon said it. He said the monsters are coming from the west. There aren't as many as the wave, but there are a lot of them. Gasp! Sir Raon did? If it's him, then it's possible. It's not just possible, it's a fact. Move quickly. Prepare to defend. Ring the alarm again. The soldiers and snow strikers swallowed hard and immediately started moving as soon as they heard Raon's name. Monsters? What kind of monsters are you talking about? Tarion, who came out late, yelled at him. Yes, what monsters are there? We need to prepare differently depending on their kind. Just like the wave, they are a mixture of trolls, orcs, and ocean monsters. And Dorian caught his breath and continued. He said there are 2 demons of Eden among them. Eden? The Eden of the 5 demons? Are you saying that those crazy bastards are attacking us right now? That's impossible. There's no reason for them to be here. Bullshit. The soldiers' jaws dropped. Even though they could believe that monsters were attacking, they shook their heads in disbelief upon hearing that Eden was coming. Arg, seriously. It's not me, but Sir Raon that said it. He is the one that said Eden is coming, too. Then it must be true. Prepare for battle. Open the armory. As soon as Dorian mentioned Raon's name, Tarion ordered them to prepare to fight without any hesitation. If Raon said it, then it must be true. Move quickly. Eden is coming. Prepare the defenses faster. Take the spears and swords, line them up on the castle walls. Boil the oil, prepare boulders and logs. Lay out the arrows on the ground. The soldiers also started moving quickly, no longer doubting him upon hearing that it was Raon that said it. Dorian wrinkled his nose as he watched the soldiers and swordsmen spreading out in all directions. I want to go home. It was irritating to see people that didn't trust him at all start moving as soon as he mentioned Raon's name. It can't be helped. Hiding his sorrow, he climbed the castle walls. Raon's pressure felt like flowing water as he glared towards the west. Dorian swallowed harshly. Watching Raon standing on the castle gate made his anxiousness disappear, just like when Milan was holding the ground. Is he a real monster? Even his weak self could feel it. Raon had progressed once again. Dorian's breath was unconsciously filled with surprise. Thanks to Raon's quick instruction, Haben Castle was ready to fight before the enemies arrived. The infantry and pikemen were on the castle walls with the archers and the snow strikers behind them, just like during the wave. Dorian licked his lips, turning to look behind him. It's strange. He thought the snow strikers' leader, Edquil, would say something to Raon since Tarion wasn't there. He was preparing the defenses, but Edquil was actually more docile than the soldiers. He was just staring to the west, as if he trusted what Raon said. Dorian realized once again that Raon's presence surpassed his imagination, since he was capable of changing someone as vulgar as Edquil. Whirr! Raon's pressure suddenly changed as he stared to the west. The flow of aura that used to be smooth like a stream became a fierce tidal wave and soared. They are coming. Dorian looked to the west upon hearing his low voice. The thin forest was collapsing and the monsters were swarming like a landslide. In the middle of the green and blue wave, there were 2 monster men wearing ghastly masks and helmets. They were the blue shamanic demon and the voracious ice demon, who were the puppets of Eden. It was true. Eden really is here. The blue shamanic demon. That's the voracious ice demon. Ugh. Upon witnessing the Eden's demons and the advance of monsters even fiercer than the wave, the soldiers were agitated and their morale wavered. Wait. That's a lord behind them. The ice troll lord. Is the lord actually here? It was a trap. What can we? Fire the flare. Hearing Raon's composed voice, the soldiers stopped trembling for a moment. The soldier behind him shot 2 flares to the sky. Boom, boom. The darkness faded, and the monster's distorted pressure and brutal faces came into sight. Since we don't have time to make a plan, we will proceed the same way as the last time. Raon moved towards the right side of the castle walls, where the repair hadn't yet finished. Sorry? What does that mean? I'll stop them from down there, so support me from up here. Yes, Sir Raon. Dorian extended his hand to try to stop him, but Raon was already falling down. Gasp. Is he doing that again? Seriously? Raon. Sir Raon. Admiration and astonishment filled the eyes of the soldiers and the snow strikers' swordsmen. There were even soldiers that were shivering in excitement. Thud. With Raon defending the castle walls like a giant god, the morale that was repressed by fear soared up to reach the sky. Sir Raon. Dorian clenched his fist, watching Raon emanating enormous pressure. Edquil, who was standing next to him, was also biting his lip as he stared at Raon's back. Raon caught his breath, looking at Eden's demons and monsters dashing at him. It's about 80%. Since he hadn't finished recovering yet, he could only use about 80% of his power. However, he could certainly tell that he was currently stronger than before the wave, thanks to the huge growth he got during it. But it might be a bit difficult to stop them on my own. There was the blue shamanic demon, the voracious ice demon, and even an ice troll lord. It was difficult for him to fight against the three of them, and that was without including the monsters behind them. But I still need to do it. A warrior became stronger by overcoming difficult battles and harsh crises. Feeling his pounding heart, Raon used the 10,000 flames cultivation. For you to be here, it must be my lucky day. The voracious ice demon kicked the ground. He pierced through the space in no time to slam his blade down. It was an attack that contained powerful combative energy and sharpness all at once. Thud! Raon stomped the ground. He mixed the fangs of insanity's principles with the energy surging up. The strike stretched like a ray of light to fend off the voracious ice demon's blade. Clang! Along with a thunderous noise of metals being crushed, the voracious ice demon faltered and bounced off. Why, you bastard! His confused eyes trembled violently inside his helmet. Whoosh! Ice shards hailed down from the sky. It was the ice spell used by the blue shamanic demon. The temperature became lower, and the ice shards attacked him at an abnormal angle. Ha! Raon controlled his breath to blossom a crimson flower on his blade. 10,000 flames cultivation, flame spirit. The crimson flower petals flickered, fluttering through the air to melt the ice and cut off the line of blue shamanic demon's spell. It was a wave of power created by the resonating ring of fire. What is this? The blue shamanic demon's mask trembled violently, shocked by his spell being destroyed. Since he couldn't move his body for a moment, Raon was about to run towards him while aiming for his neck. A tremendous amount of combative energy burst from his right side. Krah! The ice troll lord was running at him like a bison. The axe containing an enormous combative energy was hammered down on his head. Thud! Raon used the supreme harmony steps. His shape grew blurry like the night's shadow, only to reappear one step behind as he swung his sword upward. KRR. Even though it hadn't finished growing, it was still a lord. It turned its axe in that instant to get into a perfect defensive posture. Clang! The collision between two powers created a shockwave, severing the land that was filled with darkness. Ha! Raon grit his teeth and used the fangs of insanity. The brutal blade sensed the smell of opening to fend off the ice troll lord's axe. Thud! The ice troll lord was pushed back into the horde of orcs behind him. Squashing 6 orcs under him, he turned them into a bloodbath. Whir! Raon lowered his sword, white dust rising to the air. 3 times. That was the number of swings he made to stop hundreds of monsters and 2 demons of Eden. Witnessing that overwhelming power, the people in the castle and the monsters under it could only blink their eyes in amazement. I'll be disappointed if that's all you've got. Raon smiled faintly and brandished his sword. The energy flowing from the silver blade encroached through the space. You are just bluffing while straining yourself. Wrath sneered. That's true, but... Raon snickered. I just need to block the front. He raised his left hand. Arrows and bolts pierced through the peaceful moonlight to decorate the sky. Pow! 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 The monsters that got hit by the arrows collapsed or knelt, one after the other. Shoot them again. Tyrion's gallant voice could be heard, and hundreds of silver arrows fell once again. The number of monsters that collapsed was even bigger than the last time. How do you feel about being ambushed in return? How did you know we were coming? I have good intuition. Raon furrowed his brows, looking at the blue shamanic demon and the voracious ice demon. That was a pretty good trap, because I completely fell for it. However, he pointed at the flare fading away and continued. That's signaling the danger. The commander will be back before tomorrow morning. And I only need to stop you until then. Voracious ice demon, you were right this time. An energy that was gloomy enough to make his hair stand on end creeped from the blue shamanic demon's mask. We have to kill him right now. Kill? You aren't capable of that. La Tia. The blue shamanic demon slammed his staff down and chanted. Krrrr. Key. The monsters that were on death's door after getting hit by the arrows stood back up, their eyes shining red. They showed off their yellow teeth, flesh stuck between them, with a pressure even more brutal than before. The plan is changed. He is our highest priority. Kill him. Oh, wow. The voracious ice demon walked up to him, giggling, upon hearing the blue shamanic demon's order. I can't believe you got even stronger than the last time. You are a real monster, huh? Combative energy surrounded him as his deadly eyes glared at him. It looked like the northern sea's rough and cold waves were encircling him. You heard him, right? He told me to kill you, first. The voracious ice demon's energy exploded from him and rushed at Raon. The shark sting helmet grew bigger in an instant, making him overwhelmingly faster than before. Raon used Glacier in return. Reading his movement through the ocean of perception, he swung his sword. Clang! The collision between the thin blade and the sword created a thunderous noise, trembling the ground at the base. The voracious ice demon forced his way through with power. It was a tremendous power that felt like facing the great ocean's tidal wave with a naked body. Slam! Raon used the 10,000 Flames cultivation to the extreme and hacked with the fangs of insanity. The moment he fended off the voracious ice demon's blade, he twisted his body like a shark to target Raon's neck with its spike. Die! You die! Right before the spike reached his neck, Raon's left hand moved like lightning. He drew the blade of Requiem from behind his waist to slash him right away. Slash! The blade of ghastly energy cut through the armor and tasted red blood. This wound is nothing. The voracious ice demon didn't withdraw. As expected of a demon with the ferocious shark stings characteristic, he showed his teeth to rush at him once again. I'll cut you as it is. Raon's eyes shone with a frightening light and he pulled his sword back. As he was about to flash his sword, his sight was filled with white fur. It was the Ice Troll Lord, who had recovered from its injuries. Huge snowballs were falling from his right side, enough to cover his sight. They were the snowstorm created by the blue shamanic demon. Unlike the Ice Troll shaman's spell, it looked powerful enough for a single snowball to break his bones. Slum! Slam! In the midst of a pouring snowstorm, Raon dodged the Ice Troll Lord's attack and deflected the voracious ice demon's blade. Ha! Since the voracious ice demon and the blue shamanic demon both possessed powers surpassing an advanced level expert, adding the Ice Troll Lord with overwhelming physical abilities on top of them was making him feel like death. A cold sweat ran down his spine. You deserve it after the way you ran in like an idiot. Shut up. Ignoring wrath making fun of him, he swung his sword. 10,000 Flames cultivation, 10 flames. Revolving sky. The sawtooth of flame rotated to shred the voracious ice demon's blade and the Ice Troll Lord's waist to pieces. As he was about to keep advancing, the blue shamanic demon created a wall of ice to stop him from moving. Tisk. That kept happening. That kind of interruption was stopping him from finishing them off. The monsters are also problematic. Even the normal monsters were engulfed in madness as they tried to break through the castle walls. He couldn't allow himself to be careless for a single moment. If only one of the three wasn't here. As he was bitterly licking his lips, he could hear the sound of two people jumping down from the castle walls. When he looked around, he saw the trembling Dorian and Edquil, who was biting his lip. Dorian? And you are? I'll take care of the Lord. You shall fight the two of them. Dorian took out a black rock and a white rock from his belly pocket. I can't let you fight alone 2 times in a row. He struck the 2 rocks like flints, then threw them towards the Lord. Bomb! The rocks exploded and the white smoke emerging from it covered the Ice Troll Lord and the monsters. Let's go! All right. Dorian and Edquil wore some strange eye patches and went into the smoke. Huh, I never thought he would be useful one day. Me, either. Raon smiled faintly and turned around. He could see the blue shamanic demon and the voracious ice demon furrowing their brows. I'm sorry, but I'm going to end this quickly. He pointed his sword at the two demons. I admit that you are powerful. That's not a swordsmanship and reaction one can have at your age. However, you are looking down on us too much. The blue shamanic demon's mouth curved into a demonic smile. We aren't your average monsters. The voracious ice demon lowered his posture while glaring at Raon. Standing on four limbs like a wolf, he raised his head. He controlled the combative energy covering his entire body, bringing forth all the coldness of the northern ocean that was encircling his heart. Freeze to death. His mouth split wide open, like a shark swallowing its prey. Extreme coldness poured from its dark throat. It was the shark sting's ability, ice breath. Creak. The pure white ice froze the fissured ground in an instant and engulfed Raon. The tremendous wave of ice was powerful enough to create a spiky wall of ice behind him. He is done. Now, huh? The voracious ice demon, who was about to stand up after wiping his mouth, was petrified like a plaster figure. Raon was reflected in his trembling pupil. He couldn't believe his eyes. It was impossible to stay uninjured like that after facing ice breath head-on. What? The voracious ice demon's entire body started trembling, as if he were having a stroke. How did you survive the ice breath? The ice breath was a special technique that combined combative energy and ice. Since it was impossible to endure it by normal means, he couldn't understand how he remained spotless like that. Move aside, I'll do it. Kardarartan. The blue shamanic demon slammed down his staff and chanted. The snowstorm around Haben Castle was reduced in range to focus on Raon, and the color changed to an ominous yellow. It was the snowflake of the yellow lotus, a spell that targeted the mind. Since it inflicted frostbite on the mind instead of the body, it was impossible to endure even with a strong resistance to ice. Ha! Even though it was a brutal storm curse, the man standing inside was standing confidently, pointing his blade towards the sky. Bomb! The crimson blade fell like lightning, ripping the cursed snowstorm in half. Looking like he was wearing a silver coat, Raon walked over the fluttering snowflakes as his mouth curled into a smile. Impossible. How could a cursed spell be? The snowflake of the yellow lotus was a mental attack that he'd prepared to use against Milland. He never imagined it could be broken by someone like him. Ice? A curse? Crimson flame burst from Raon's blade, melting the darkness around him. I've experienced that my whole life. From someone way worse than you. Chapter 135. The attack force that left Haben Castle to kill the Lord had arrived near Stalin Mountain. Rest for 10 minutes. Milland ordered the group to rest, standing on the hill where he could vaguely see Stalin Mountain. Since fights could break out at any time, they needed to be ready for battle at all times as they moved past that point. Where's the place the Lord was located last time? It's the rocking stone at the midpoint of Stalin Mountain. We should be able to find it before the sun rises tomorrow. Barty, the first scouting party leader, bowed to him and replied. I see. Milland furrowed his brows, looking at Stalin Mountain. It gave off an eerie feeling, covered with darkness and snow. It's ominous. He'd started moving immediately because it was an urgent matter, but it was a strange situation in many ways. The ocean monsters coming out to the mountain from the northern ocean, the ice troll shaman and warrior that targeted the scouts from behind, and the Lord's appearance after the wave. They were all abnormal incidents. Milland clasped the sword equipped around his waist. But I have no other choice right now. Since there were 3 sightings in total, it was undeniable that an ice troll lord had appeared. Even if it was a trap, the lord needed to be killed for sure. Let's set off, huh? It was as he was about to give the order, silently sighing, that he saw it. A small spark rose from the direction of Haben Castle. Ha! Ha! That's a flare? Eyes widened all around as they saw the flare. Ha! A second one? That means. The swordsman and knight swallowed harshly as they witnessed the second flare. Consecutive flares signified emergency. It meant that Haben Castle was in danger. Do we need to return? We should kill the Lord first before we do. Are you insane? That means the castle is in danger right now. But we can't return empty-handed after coming this far. And even if we run at full speed right now, it will take too long. There were different opinions among the swordsmen and knights. People that were arguing eventually turned to look at Milland, who had the authority to decide. Tarion, Raon, and Edquil are at Haben Castle. Milland twisted his mouth, looking at the flare as it faded. There's no way they shot the flare for a trivial matter. Tarion trusted Raon completely. The fact that he sent the danger signal despite having Raon there meant that it was a serious matter. However, Milland's decision wasn't only based on that. The way Raon prioritized the soldiers rather than himself as he jumped down the castle walls. That heroic scene was still engraved in his brain, affecting his decision. Everyone, turn around. Milland's eyes were shining as he turned around from Stalin Mountain. We are returning at full speed. Ha! Raon snickered, looking at the blue flower bracelet hanging around his wrist. This is an interesting development. Thanks to fighting to death against Wrath every day, his resistance to frost and mental attacks were above a master's level. It might have been different if he had been attacked earlier, but since he had already acquired Glacier, the ice and curse were all pointless against him. It's all thanks to you. Thank you. Raon nodded his head at Wrath, who was protruding slightly from the bracelet. Ugh. That wasn't the King of Essence's intention. Wrath narrowed his eyes and glared at him. But it's a fact that their attacks became meaningless thanks to you. Arg. You arrogant bastard. Wrath's arm of ice was trembling intensely. It seemed he took it as a mockery. Murmuring that Raon would receive divine punishment one day, he returned to the bracelet. Who the hell are you? The blue shamanic demon screamed, despite having maintained a low voice so far. How can a youngster's willpower be this? Confusion could be seen in the voracious ice demon's eyes as well. His long pupils, which resembled fish bones, expanded. The Scouts Guard. Raon nonchalantly pointed at the scouts firing arrows from the castle walls. Do you think that makes any sense? Why does it matter if it makes sense or not? I'm your enemy regardless. Raon spun his sword. The crimson blade that contained the energy of the 10,000 Flames cultivation severed the cold air. Come at me. Ku. You damn bastard. Raon crooked his finger and the voracious ice demons and the blue shamanic demon's energies increased exponentially. It seemed they were using their full power, as the combative energy distorting the space soared up to reach the sky. Rashekma. Baratan. Jew. The blue shamanic demon waved his staff in the air, the snowstorm growing more intense as he did so. The snowballs falling like rain covered his entire line of sight. The storm contained a curse and coldness that was even more powerful than before. The voracious ice demon opened his arms. The fierce combative energy coiled around his body like a snake to create hundreds of spikes. Kra! The voracious ice demon roared and kicked the ground. The moment Raon was about to defend, he disappeared. It seemed he was hiding inside the storm for a surprise attack. Raon didn't panic. He closed his eyes and opened the ocean of perception. Perception. A huge wave emerged from the back. It was the voracious ice demon's surprise attack. He planned on attacking by surging up from the ground. Raon opened his eyes and swung his sword, following the flow of the fangs of insanity. Clang! It was difficult to believe that the blasting sound was made by a human being, and Raon's sword was pushed back for the first time. You have a really great sense, for sure. But this will be different from the last time. This snowstorm is my domain. He was right. The power and speed of his attacks were at a completely different level from before. He wasn't using power he'd been hiding, it looked like the snowstorm was enhancing his abilities. Die. The voracious ice demon swung his fist and kicked him. The spikes and blades on his forearms and shins started rotating to create a wave of combative energy. Slum. Raon used the 10,000 flames cultivation to the extreme. He slammed down with the blade covered in crimson flame. The crash between combative energy and aura created a tremendous wave, erasing all the snow covering the ground. However, the voracious ice demon that should have been in front of his eyes was nowhere to be seen. He was preparing another surprise attack, hiding inside the snowstorm like a shark catching its breath in front of its prey. How pointless. Raon smiled coldly. He had already located the voracious ice demon using Glacier. Whoosh! The voracious ice demon approached him from the left, thrusting his fist at Raon's heart. Raon turned his blade to deflect the combative energy that was falling down like lightning. Rumble! As he was about to follow the voracious ice demon as he stepped back, the snowstorm became intense once again and ice shards as sharp as spikes rained down on him. It looked like the blue shamanic demon and the voracious ice demon were trying to gnaw off his head with a combined attack by using their specialties. Is this how you want to play? Raon's eyes sparkled red as he blocked the ice shards that were raining down with a coat of frost. You won't even see my face anymore. You will end up dying inside that endless snowfall. He could hear the voracious ice demon's voice from the snowstorm. It was resounding from all directions, so that he couldn't be located. Who are you holding a candle against? The movement of Raon's left foot contained his resolution. It was the supreme harmony step that was controlling the pace. Raon traversed the snowstorm in an instant and appeared on the right side. What are you planning on doing? The thing they are planning to do, N. He grinned, pointing at the flower bracelet. The thing I learned from you. What? Ignoring Wrath's question, Raon used Glacier. He didn't open the ocean of perception nor use Glenn's coat, but the cloak of frost. He covered his body with the endless snow and ice, just like an assassin covering himself with darkness. Hiding his presence and tracks, he imagined himself becoming the snow itself. Since it was what he'd done his entire life as an assassin, it wasn't really difficult to achieve. He managed to dissolve his presence into the snow before the voracious ice demon managed to discover his location. What? Where did he go? Blue shamanic demon. I can't find him. The voracious ice demon's confused voice resounded as he followed his tracks. He must be nearby. He is targeting you right now, so stay on guard and keep moving. The blue shamanic demon's voice, coming from outside the snowstorm, was trembling. He seemed to be flustered. Damn it! He is all talk and can't even do anything properly. The voracious ice demon grit his teeth and tried to hide his presence. However, Raon was already at his back. The heated blade slammed down on him like lightning. The moment the deadly blade was about to reach the voracious ice demon's neck, he twisted his body. It was an extreme reflex, befitting a monstrous man that had received a helmet from Eden. Splash! However, the sword was faster than him. His upper body split apart diagonally instead of his neck, and a serious amount of blood gushed out. Qua! The voracious ice demon opened his huge mouth and started screaming. As Raon was about to finish him off, his mouth extended in a flash and bit his left arm. He was truly insane, for trying to attack when he was about to die. Krrrr. I'll bite your arm off. Arm? What arm? It's obviously yours. What? The voracious ice demon's eyes widened upon seeing Raon's arm, the one that he was trying to bite off. This is. What's in your mouth isn't my arm, but the ice covering it. The moment he tried to bite his arm, Raon used Glacier to create a thick shield of ice on it, which was what he managed to bite. Keep chewing on it. Hap! When the voracious ice demon released the arm and tried to step back, Raon's sword drew a half circle. It was the fastest and most precise attack so far. The voracious ice demon's body froze, despite him trying to move away. Coo! Why, you really are. Unable to finish his sentence, his neck was severed. With a thud, the shark helmet fell down, buried under the yellow snow. TSK. He is stupidly strong. Raon frowned, looking at his wobbling left arm. His jaw managed to chew through the ice shield made with glacier and broke his bone. It was a frightening level of dental strength. Even though my arm is broken, I shall finish this fight. Targeting the blue shamanic demon, who was swinging his staff outside the snowstorm, Raon kicked the ground. Gasp! The moment he pierced through the snowstorm with glacier, the blue shamanic demon screamed and backed off. The storming ice shards became even fiercer. Get away! He was even faster than a warrior, probably because he was using a spell. However, Raon was even faster than him, as he was using the Supreme Harmony steps. Protect me! Realizing that he would be caught, the blue shamanic demon screamed and broke his staff. KRRRR. A huge explosion occurred inside the gray smoke, bouncing back Dorian and Edquil in a shambled state. The Ice Troll Lord emerged through the smoke and dashed towards Raon. Kwa! Kra! Kia-ah! The monsters that were attacking the castle walls also turned around at once, running towards him. It seemed to be a spell to gather all the brainwashed monsters. It's not over yet. I can't die here. He then created huge swords and spears made of snow in the air to shoot at him. It showed his willingness to live at all costs. Kra! The Ice Troll Lord that had already caught up to him slammed his axe, which was the size of a human body, down. Thud! Raon used the river footwork to rush at the blue shamanic demon from the right. 10 flames blooming on the silver curve, rotated in unison like a cogwheel. Slash! The crimson trajectory created along the horizon of the snowfield severed the ice armor and the blue shamanic demon's mask. Wah! I can't die like this. A red line was drawn on his wrinkled face. He was trying to grab the blood flowing down from the center of his face, but it was pointless. I should have killed you back, th. With that as his last word, he collapsed forward. The ghastly light disappeared from his eyes like a wick being snuffed out. Whoosh! The snowstorm that seemed endless finally stopped, and the monsters overflowing with madness stopped moving. KRR. Even the eyes of the Ice Troll Lord, who was about to swing its axe, wavered violently in confusion. Raon has defeated the enemy leader. Now is the time. Attack at once. Tyrion's feverish voice could be heard from the castle walls. The swords and spears thrust by the spirited soldiers ripped apart the monsters that had fallen into a state of confusion. However, Raon didn't attack the Ice Troll Lord standing right in front of him. His eyes were wavering like a sailboat riding a tidal wave. That confusion was similar to Raon in his previous life. KRR. The madness disappeared from the Ice Troll Lord's eyes. It looked like it finally realized why it was there, and what had happened. It was a smart one. That look in its eyes was also the same as the one Raon had upon getting released from the brainwashing with the Ring of Fire. Kwa-ah! The Ice Troll Lord roared and backed off. It was a signal to retreat with the dying monsters, instead of continuing to fight. He is a real king. Raon narrowed his eyes, looking at the Ice Troll Lord calling the monsters. He was a proper leader, incomparably better than the blue shamanic demon, who used the monsters as a bait to save himself. But it can't be helped. Even though he took a liking to it, he still couldn't allow it to escape. I'm sorry, but I can't let you go. Raon blocked the path of the Ice Troll Lord that was trying to retreat. Kra! The Ice Troll Lord bared its long teeth and roared, telling him to step aside. The castle will collapse in the future if I allow you to leave. He could tell just from watching its previous actions. It had the qualities of a king. It could become a better king than Darius Robert, who treated humans as hunting dogs. And that was also the reason he needed to finish it off right there. You couldn't live as a king, but you shall die as one. Probably because it understood his meaning. KRR. The Ice Troll warrior's face stiffened. It put down the axe that didn't suit it and drew out the blue combative energy. The burning combative energy was incomparably larger than when in its brainwashed state. Whir! The blue combative energy compressed into a round shape on the Ice Troll warrior's fist. As the size became smaller, the combative energy amplified to a tremendous degree. Whoosh! Raon dragged out all his remaining aura. The aura of flame dribbled and gathered on his blade, creating a spear of aura similar to an icicle that barely managed to form. Come, nameless king of trolls! Krah! The Ice Troll Lord exploded the ground as it leaped, punching him with its fist. The compressed energy exploded and completely filled Raon's vision with blue combative energy. Creak! Raon used the sword he was pulling back to stretch forward. The aura of flame gathering on the blade became a ray of light to dash towards it. 10,000 flames cultivation, 10 flames. Flames singularity. The spear of flame stormed at the wave of combative energy to shred it to pieces.